شغال عفوا. And what makes water najis? We also took the topic of siwak. We also took slightly the type of vessels that we can't use and the vessels that we can use. We mentioned that we cannot use vessels made of gold, if you remember. We also covered up the topic of wudu. We mentioned last week the benefits of wudu, a broader, deeper meaning of what wudu actually is and what benefits it brings or what it protects us from, etc., and so on and so forth. There was a bit, or there's a part of wudu that we had not covered up, and that was the sunnah of wudu. We will try to go through it quickly, and bi'idhnillah, after that we will enter a new topic also under tahara, under purification, and that is known as al-istinja and istijmar. Purifying yourself or purifying after relieving oneself. Alright? So purifying after relieving oneself is something that might seem like a strange topic, but indeed this shows you how our deen covers up every aspect of our life. Al-Akh Muhammad, come close, I can't see you, you've hidden yourself. There's one of my students from my previous mosque. Tafaddal. So this shows you that Islam covers up everything in a Muslim's life, every aspect of life, until the ulama, and they have compiled this, and even the Prophet ﷺ taught us how to purify ourselves and clean ourselves when we go and relieve ourselves. That detailed. I don't think that we have other religions that have such detailed explanation about how we should carry ourselves and how we should act as Muslims. We mentioned that purifying ourselves, okay, without purification your salah is not valid. Without purification, majority of the ibadahs that you want to do are not valid. Aside from like dua, you can make dua without wudu, it's okay, but you can't hold the Quran without wudu. You can recite Quran on your phone without wudu, but you can't hold the mushaf itself without wudu. You can't do tawaf without wudu. You can't pray salah without wudu. So I think we mentioned, we had a deeper explanation about what is wudu, what the ablution, what benefits do we get from. One of the things I remember that we mentioned was how wudu reduces a person's heat that comes from lust. If you remember last dars, which was last Sunday, we mentioned that it reduces the heat that shaitan brings in a person. When a person is in that peak of extreme lust, we are humans. So in order for you to protect yourself and calm yourself down, rush to go and do wudu. We also mentioned one of the most important virtues of wudu is that wudu helps wudu expiates a person's sins. We mentioned that if you wash your hands, the water that drips off your hands are also the same way sins coming out of your hands that your hand committed. We mentioned that when you wash your face while doing wudu, that it does what? It expiates or it clears the sins that your eyes committed, that your mouth committed, maybe you uttered something wrong, etc., and so on and so forth. We also mentioned one of the things that I want now the the ones who were here last time in the class, to give me one virtue of wudu that we mentioned last time. And then there is a homework that I gave everyone last time also. I don't know if you guys remember. A very short or very small homework that I gave. I said I will ask the question in today's lesson to see if people were paying attention. All right? And the homework is, or before I mention the homework, I remind you of the homework. Give me one virtue that we took amongst the, was it 10 or 7 I think we took last time. One of the virtues of wudu. What is, or mention one virtue of doing wudu. Bismillah, one of the benefits. Who remembers? Brigadier, you were here last time, huh? Yes, there were several. Bismillah. Yes, mashallah. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned in a hadith that the people who do wudu he mentioned them as they're known in the day of Qiyam, they'll be ghurran muhajjalin, that they will have nur in their limbs in which that the wudu was touching, for example. And then we mentioned that's how the Prophet ﷺ will know his ummah also, by the effect of wudu. That was one of the virtues. Now the homework that I gave you guys. The homework that I gave you guys was, I want a very brief biography of the author of the book that we are studying, which is known as Matn Abi Shujaa. Matn al-Ghaya wa al-Taqrib. Who is the author? Give me a very brief biography of this scholar who wrote this book. His name ends with Al-Asfahani. I'll give you a hint. But you skipped his middle name. Who has it written down in his phone or book? Who? Abu Ilyas, I don't know where he went to, and the rest. Hey, Bismillah. We don't have the whole hour, or we can say more than that. Anyone who did the homework? Do you guys need another week? You have the answer, sir? Bismillah. A whole week. Just a short biography of the author. And this is almost our 5th episode. And one of the people that I expect them to have the answer is Muhammad. He used to take notes then. What happened? Ya Rabbi, alhamdulillah. Alright, Bismillah. I'll give you guys another week. Next Sunday, inshallah, come with the biography of the author of this book. Why do I say, and I think the first day when we started these lectures, I mentioned, I think we covered up several ulama, just brief biography of them. I mentioned that if you dig deeper and learn about the history of these ulama, it ignites in you, okay? It ignites in you the morale of wanting to study your deen, wanting to be like them. Because when you study someone's biography, you'll hear he was a person who used to never miss Qiyam al-Layl. How was his life? How was his way of life with his families? How did he deal with his kids and all those things? How did he deal with his students? How was his akhlaq towards his teacher? So all these things are lessons that benefit us in so many different ways. And that's when you are asked, who is your role model? These ulama have to be your role models. After the Prophet ﷺ, obviously. Okay? So it's important, even if you teach your kids, bring your kids to the lectures, even if they're young. There's young ones here. Sometimes some might, sometimes sleep or feel sleepy or whatever, but they pay attention, they get one or two things, but the moments that they have with you in these lectures will go a very long way. These are memories that last forever. Are we together? So inshallah, in the next lesson, try your best. When you're coming, come with one or two friends, come with your kids. If you have even daughters, bring them. You can come with your wife. She can be in the female side. The female side is open, right? She can come and also benefit. This is only 1 hour every week. And the things that you can take in this 1 hour can benefit you for the rest of your life. We might see them as small things, but they can take us a very, very long way in our life, in which we will worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the right way, in which we will benefit so much ourselves and our families and the ummah in general. Are we together? So today, inshallah, before without wasting time, we will start the topic, which is sunnah, acts of worships in wudu that are sunnah. And these things are like 10, if I'm not wrong. Sah, 10. They are like 10. Al-Akh Rayyan will read the Arabic part. I will summarize the English so that we can go to the next topic also. As long as it's understood, I don't have to translate each and every word, each and every sentence word to word, inshallah. Bismillah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma ghafir lana wa li shaykhina wa li jami'il muslimin. وسننه أي الوضوء 10 أشياء، وفي بعض نسخ المتن 10 خصال. التسمية أوله وأقلها بسم الله، وأكملها بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، فإن ترك التسمية في أوله أتى بها في أثنائه، فإن فرغ من الوضوء لم يأت بها.
Alright, the Musannif here explains and says, and the sunnahs of wudu are 10. Alright, the sunnah of wudu are 10. And in some version he mentioned that there are 10 characteristics of wudu, such as sunnahs. Number 1 is at-tasmiyah, saying Bismillah before starting. He also mentions that you can say Bismillah if you forgot in the middle of doing wudu, but once you're done with wudu, you will not be able to say Bismillah anymore. And this can differ in other madhabs also. But in madhab of Imam Shafi, as mentioned, and in mutawwalat, and you can go deeper in it, inshallah, if you want to understand about this. But Bismillah is one of the sunnahs, the first sunnah mentioned in this book by the author, where it's important to start anything with Bismillah, not only wudu. Right? Before eating, what do you say? Bismillah. Not Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. That's different. Bismillah, khalas. There are places where you say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is when you recite Quran. It's where the Prophet ﷺ mentioned when you start a surah and all that. So, before starting wudu, don't start Bismillahir Rahman. You'll also add up A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim before it. There's not that. Are we together? So Bismillah is the first sunnah that you make, you utter before starting wudu. The minimum is Bismillah in the name of Allah, and the most complete is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. But in the name of Allah, the most gracious and most merciful. If one omits the Basmala as mentioned at the beginning, they should say it during the wudu. If they finish wudu, they should not say it. I've already explained this. So you see, when I summarize it, it's easier rather than reading every text translated word after word. It takes a lot of time. Number 2, Bismillah.
وغسل الكفين إلى الكوعين قبل المضمضة، ويغسلهما 3 إن تردد في طهورهما قبل إدخالهما الإناء المشتمل على ماء دون القلتين، فإن لم يغسلهما كره له غمسهما في الإناء وإن تيقن طهورهما لم يكره له غمسهما.
Alright, the second one is وَغَسْلُ الْكَفَّيْنِ, washing the hands up to the wrist before rinsing the mouth. One should wash them 3 times if uncertain about the purity before immersing them into a vessel containing water less than 2 qullah. If one does not wash them, it is disliked for him to immerse them in a vessel. However, if he is certain of their purity, immersing them is not disliked. What does this mean? When you start wudu, and the first thing that we do, and that is how it's sunnah, when you say Bismillah, is washing your wrist, the whole wrist. When you wake up, as mentioned, it's not advised to, or not allowed to put your hands in a vessel directly before washing your hands on the side 3 times. Because as the Prophet ﷺ said, when a person sleeps, he doesn't know where his hand had been. Because when you're asleep, your hands can go in different places. Are we together? Without you knowing. And that's how da'if we humans are. Why? When sleeping, known as that when you sleep is a form of what? Of death, small death. So the Musannif mentions the second sunnah here is to wash your hands until your wrist. If you're not sure about its purity, then do it 3 times, not only 1 time. Remember last time what we mentioned, that if you're doing wudu, is it permissible for you to do to wash the limbs or the parts of wudu 1 time, or is it a must 3 times? We said 1 time is allowed, 2 times is allowed, and so 3 times is best. Are we together? So if you're not sure about your hand being pure, wash it 3 times, eventually your hand will be clean. Number 3, Bismillah.
والمضمضة بعد غسل الكفين ويحصل أصل السنة فيها بإدخال الماء في الفم سواء أداره فيه ومجه أم لا فإن أراد الأكمل أداره فيه ومجه.
Alright, here he mentions, as the Muslim says, بعد غسل الكفين, after washing the wrists, ويحصل أصل السنة فيها بإدخال الماء في الفم سواء أداره فيه. He says, as rinsing the mouth, whether you swish the water in your mouth or just put in your mouth and spit it out. But he advised that it's better when you are washing rinsing your mouth, you swivel or swish the water in your mouth around so that you clean. You know your mouth might be stale. You don't want to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala next to other Muslims praying while your mouth is not that clean. So purifying your mouth, it's advised you swish the water inside. And if one desires the most complete form, they should swish and expel it. In this part, the Musannif says, you can, I don't want to confuse you guys on this one. Just do the way it should be. Because as he mentioned here, that you can expel it and spit it out, or not spit it out. Are we together? But just spit it out as usual, because you never know what is in your mouth. Let's continue with the normal way to simplify the explanation about the wudu. Bismillah. Number 4 عفوا.
والاستنشاق بعد المضمضة ويحصل أصل السنة فيه بإدخال الماء في الأنف سواء جذبه بنفسه إلى خياشيمه ونثره أم لا فإن أراد الأكمل جذبه بنفسه إلى خياشيمه ونثره والمبالغة مطلوبة في المضمضة والاستنشاق والجمع بين المضمضة والاستنشاق بثلاث غرف يتمضمض من كل منها ثم يستنشق أفضل من الفصل بينهما.
Alright. Number 4 عفوا, right? Number 4 والاستنشاق بعد المضمضة ويحصل أصل السنة فيه بإدخال الماء في الأنف سواء جذبه بنفسه إلى خياشيمه ونثره أم لا فإن أراد الأكمل نثره until the end. The Musannif says is sniffing water into the nose, which is known as istinshaq, after rinsing the mouth. The basic sunnah is achieved by putting water into the nose, whether one draws it up into the nostrils and expels it or not. If one desires the most complete form, they should expel it. Remember last time I had a chart when we were finishing at the end, I mentioned in this madhab this is sunnah, in this madhab it's wajib, the other one is sunnah and all that. These acts of worship in wudu. We will go through it at the end of our lesson before starting Istinja and Istijmar. I think we still have time. It's a must in the madhab of Hanabila that you have to rinse your mouth and also sniff water in your nose. So rinsing the mouth and sniffing water, madmada wal istinshaq is a must because it's part of the face. And we mentioned that the face is a must to be washed when doing wudu. Are we together? And then he mentioned وَالْمُبَالَغَةُ مَطْلُوبَةٌ فِي الْمَضْمَضَةِ وَالْإِسْتِنْشَاقِ. Exaggerating, that is thoroughness. When rinsing your mouth and your nose is required in rinsing, both in rinsing your mouth and sniffing in your nose. والجمع بين المضمضة والاستنشاق بثلاثة غرف يتمضمض من كل منها ثم يستنشق أفضل من الفصل بينهما. And this I mentioned in the last lecture also, that when you want to rinse your mouth, if you're taking water at a go at one time, make sure you use the same water for both your rinsing your mouth and your nose. Don't go mouth only and then nose on the side. Are we together on that? So you can take water, put a little bit in your mouth, and the rest you can sniff it in your nose, then expel the water from your mouth and also your nose. Are we together? Don't rinse your mouth only and then go to your nose only. So that's how the sunnah is. You can do both, yani at once, with at a go. Yani have water, carry water in your palm, put half of it in your mouth, rinse it, and at the same time put it in your nose and sniff it off. Are we together? Is it صح? 3 times is better, as we mentioned. Al-akmal, يعني. All right. The Musannif here in this last sentence, he mentions this, as Al-Akh read right now. من كل ثم يستنشق عفوا والجمع بين المضمضة والاستنشاق بثلاثة غرف يتمضمض من كل منهما ثم يستنشق أفضل من الفصل بينهما. It's not me saying, huh? All right. So the Muslim says combining rinsing the mouth and sniffing water into the nose with 3 scoops, rinsing from each. Then sniffing is better than separating them. Are we together? وفي بعض النسخ number 5, right? الخامس. Let's continue. بسم الله.
ومسح جميع الرأس وفي بعض النسخ المتن واستيعاب الرأس بالمسح أما مسح بعض الرأس فواجب كما سبق ولو لم يرد نزع ما على رأسه من عمامة ونحوها كمل بالمسح عليها.
All right. Here the Musannif explains, and I also explained it last time. Last time we took wudu, even though we took it a bit quicker, yani how to do wudu. I mentioned this, but here let's repeat it a little bit for the benefit of everyone. He mentions وفي بعض النسخ المتن واستيعاب الرأس بالمسح أما مسح بعض الرأس فواجب كما سبق ولو لم يرد نزع ما على رأسه من عمامة ونحوها كما كمل بالمسح عليها. الخامس هذا هو صح؟ قرأت الخامس. جيد. Wiping the entire head in some versions of the text and covering the head completely with wiping, as for wiping only part of the head it is obligatory, as previously mentioned. In the madhab of Imam Shafi, we mentioned that wiping part of the head is sufficient, but sunnah is to wipe the whole head. And he also mentions here, if you have an imama on top, you can wipe above the imama. If when we talk about imama, is the one that is tied on the head, not like this. This one I can just put my hand in and just wipe my hair, right? It's normal. Are we together on that? But best way of doing it is wipe the whole head, as mentioned before. In the madhab of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, it's a must to wipe the whole head, not part of it. We mentioned in the madhab of Imam Malik, we also mentioned, was it Imam Malik or Imam Abu Hanifa, that quarter of the head is enough if you wipe it with water. Alright. Number 6 is وَمَسْحُ جَمِعِ Before we continue, to make it easier and go quicker, when you wipe the entire head, for example, when you wipe the entire head, when you take water and wipe your head, so you go 1, 2, and then finish it up with your ears. You don't need to take new water. One time is enough. You don't have to take 1, 2. Yeah, 1, and then take water again, 2, then take water again, 3. That's not a must. So you just take water once. You don't take the water as in your palm like this, and wet your whole head or maybe your clothes. Take your water, and then just let it out. Wipe 1, 2, and then finish it up with your ears. Same water. You don't need to take another trip to rinse your ears. Let's continue. Number 6. وَمَسْحُ جَمِيعَ الْأُذْنَيْنِ. Let's read it.
ومسح جميع الأذنين ظاهرهما وباطنهما بماء جديد، أي غير بلل الرأس. والسنة في كيفية مسحهما أن يدخل مسبحتيه في صماخيه ويديرهما على المعاطف ويمر إبهاميه على ظهورها، ثم يلصق كفيه وهما مبلولتان بالأذنين استظهارا.
The extra explanation will confuse you and all that. Just do as I mentioned previously. Wipe the whole head and finish up with your ears. Because if I read again, there's some things extras that will a bit confuse you. Let's continue with the number 7. وتخليل.
وتخليل اللحية الكفة.
Before we continue, wait. Let me read the last part of it. والسنة في كيفية مسحهما أن يدخل. يعني the sunnah method of wiping them is, the ears, is insert one index finger into the ear hole and rotate them around the folds of the ear, and to pass one's thumb over the outer parts, then to press the wet palms against the ears for thoroughness. You understand? So it's exactly how I explained. When you wipe your head, I did it in action. I didn't mention it in a sentence. So 1, 2, this one goes in, 3, 4, khalas. So you will wipe your inner part of the ear and the corners that you have in between, and then the outer part also with your thumb. Let's continue. Number 8.
وتخليل اللحية الكفة بمثلثة من الرجل، أما لحية الرجل الخفيفة ولحية المرأة والخنثى فيجب تخليلها. وكيفيته أن يدخل الرجل أصابعه من أسفل اللحية.
Alright. Here number 8 is تخليل الأصابع اليدين. أصابع اليدين والرجلين ولا في اللحية رقم كم؟ السابع عفوا معلش. Okay, running fingers through a thick beard for a man, as for the man's light beard, a woman's he also mentions a woman's beard, which no women keep beard, but it's just an example. And a khuntha also, if they have beard, for those who have both parts, male and female. So some people are born like that, they have both male and female parts. There's also mentioned them here. Running fingers through them, you put, and say this means the man should insert his finger from beneath the beard. So if your beard is not very thick, when you wash your face, it's talking about the sunnahs, you put your fingers underneath your beard and massage like your beard from underneath, so that water can reach everywhere. That is, we mentioned if your beard is not very thick. Remember? So if your beard is a bit lighter, you should do that. It's advice. Number 8. وتخليل أصابع اليدين.
وتخليل أصابع اليدين والرجلين إن وصل الماء إليها من غير تخليل، فإن لم يصل إلا به كالأصابع الملتفة وجب تخليلها، وإن لم يتأت تخليلها لالتحامها حرم فتوقها للتخليل.
This deep explanation I'll try to avoid for now. وتخليل أصابع اليدين والرجلين. To summarize it, running fingers between the fingers of the hands and the toes of the feet, if water reaches them without this action. But if water does not reach them except by doing so, such as intertwined fingers, then running fingers through them is obligatory. When you do wudu, washing your hands or your feet or whatever it is, sometimes or water can reach everywhere easily. But sometimes, in some cases, a person might have fingers which are intertwined, which water cannot surpass through it. So you have to massage your fingers through it so that water can reach. Is it understood? So some situations, a person might have toes which are very tightly locked, and sometimes this happens when a person also was not born like this, but due to wearing certain types of boots. All right, certain types of boots makes the person's toe, the first toe, to bend a little bit and squeeze the rest, so water doesn't penetrate through. How do you do wudu properly if the water has not penetrated through those areas of your feet? So massaging through it, he mentions it's obligatory if the water doesn't go through it. But if your fingers are not intertwined as mentioned, then you let water, you wash it as usual. Bismillah. Number 9, وتقديم اليمنى. لا اترك كيفية. It's a long story. I've explained already. Yes, to save time.
وتقديم اليمنى من يديه ورجليه على اليسرى منهما. أما العضوان اللذان يسهل غسلهما معا كالخدين فلا يقدم اليمنى منهما على اليسرى بل يطهران دفعة واحدة. وذكر المصنف سنية تثليث العضو المغسول والممسوح في قوله والطهارة ثلاثا وفي بعض النسخ والتكرار أي للمغسول والممسوح
والموالاة. Okay. The last ones that he mentions, number 9, وتقديم اليمنى من يديه ورجليه على اليسرى. And starting from the right and left, this is something we mentioned last time. Always start, if you're washing your hands, you start with the right and then the left one. When you're going to your feet, start with the right and then the left one. That's what he's explaining here. And then he also says وذكر المصنف سنية التثليث, and the author mentioned the sunnah of washing, wiping each limb 3 times in his statement. Number 10, and purification 3 times of each limb. In some version it is and repetition, meaning for both the washed and wiped parts. And al-muwalat is succession, like don't jump from one part of doing wudu to the other one without following the context that is there. So if you start washing your hands, you know the next thing is what? Rinsing your mouth, your nose, and then your face. Don't go from your hands, then wash your full hand until your what do you call, elbow, and then go wash your face. You will not be doing the way the Prophet ﷺ actually did. And Awamze last time asked, is it enough for a person if you make niyyah of wudu and you take a shower? Does it suffice? A good number of ulama say it's not enough, because there's no succession. Yani after this, then this, all the parts of wudu, the way it's explained. But there is one that they explained, I remember, which is if you're in the state of janaba. That means you are in a you're not in a pure state. You are in a state that is not pure, not the small state, but the bigger state of impurity. So if you're not in wudu, you're in a small state of impurity. But if you are in a state of janaba, you are in a bigger state of impurity. So janaba is like way bigger than not having wudu only. So he mentioned, I remember as I was reading some, listening to him, that if you make the intention of wudu before taking a bath of janaba, it suffices the wudu, because you have removed the bigger impurity, which was the state of janaba. Otherwise, the normal way, like let's say you're just taking a bath, as you're not in the state of janaba, just you take wudu and then you take a bath, or you can take a bath as the Prophet ﷺ used to make wudu and then take a bath. So you have to do wudu by itself. That's what is advised, inshallah. The other thing is, now we're mentioning here is خلصنا العشرة صح؟ Let's continue. وإذا ثلث فالاعتبار الآخر وإنما تندب الموالاة في غير وضوء صاحبه. Okay, continue بسرعة. وإذا ثلث بسرعة فالاعتبار لآخر غسله. wait. وإنما تندب الموالاة في غير وضوء صاحب الضرورة أما هو فالموالاة واجبة في حقه. Okay, this I just read this statement. The Musannif here mentions, he says muwalat is only recommended for those who are not in a state of continuous necessity. As for them, muwalat is obligatory. Meaning, if a person is this is ikhtilaf, and I don't want to put into in you and you know teach you guys. It will confuse you later on. You'll say, which one should I follow? So that's why I'm trying to simplify it. This was some sentences I'm trying to skip them. So now, before we continue, if you want to know the reference of properly doing wudu, go and search for a hadith that is a hadith of Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu. This hadith of Uthman ibn Affan is a hadith that has explained, it's a detailed description of the Prophet's wudu. And the hadith is رأيت عثمان بن عفان دعا بوضوء فأفرغ على كفيه ثلاث مرات فغسلهما. This hadith. I will share this hadith in the group inshallah. Alright, I will share the hadith in the group. This is the dalil on how the Prophet ﷺ actually did wudu in detail. The description of how the Prophet ﷺ did wudu, and this is how Uthman ibn Affan did. I hope it will also benefit the rest, inshallah.
Most of us will find that the books you read, the teaching you had, when taking wudu,
Meaning?
every part is done 3 times. This was how insist that has got that every part is done 3 times. And breakfast we also cover the steps. Because for us it is 6, you know, it is the hands, the mouth, the nose alone separately, the face, and the arms, and the head, now and the ears, which again is almost standard for us. Which Qur'an is that? Which shape that we're following?
See, how did we learn that? How did you learn that book? That is a fiqhi book, most probably. There's no any other book that covers about wudu. How many schools of thoughts do we have? 4. Every madhab have a little bit of changes, but not so much. Not big differences. We mentioned, for example, you want us to go through again which is fard and which is sunnah like last time. It will assist a little bit, which is very beneficial, I can say. For example, the one that you mentioned 3 times. It's sunnah in all the 4 madhabs. It's sunnah. So that, yes. This does not mean you leave it. You know, we have something that we Muslims these days, a big problem. Alright? When we hear something is sunnah, we think that if I leave it, there's no... You're missing a lot. Didn't you get my point? For example, fasting in the day of Arafah, is it fard? Fasting in the day of Arafah, for us who are not going for Hajj, is it fard for us or wajib? No, it's sunnah mu'akkada. Fasting Ashura, is it fard? No. Do you get it? Do you get my point here, right? So, these are extra things. For example, tathlith, which is known as washing the limbs of wudu 3 times. This washing of these limbs 3 times is sunnah, as mentioned in all 4 schools of thought. In Imam Shafi, Imam Abu. Because it's, why is it 3 times? It's because it's al-akmal, yani it's like it suffices enough. For example, if you wash your face once, maybe you're out from somewhere and you wash it once is not enough for you to remove the dirt of your face. When you wash it the second time, the dirt comes out more. The third time might remove the dirt at all. That's the reason behind it. But if, as mentioned, if you do it once or twice, your wudu is valid. That's the thing. Are we together? One of the things that we mentioned is madmada, rinsing of the mouth, and istinshaq, sniffing water in the nose, is sunnah in all the madhabs except madhab of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. It's fard. You see the difference? It's because how they understood the ayah properly. Their way of doing the what do you call sharh of that ayah, the understanding of that ayah. Are we together on this? This doesn't mean the rest are wrong. That's the thing. This is about fiqh. Are we together? Only fiqh. But things, issues concerning the aqidah, we don't have ikhtilaf. All the four madhabs follow the same aqidah. Aqidah which doesn't have shirk in it, which doesn't have innovations in it, bid'ah and all those things. Yes. So the ikhtilaf when it comes is ikhtilaf in the fiqh. And this is, having ikhtilaf of fiqh in our ummah is a barakah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it also teaches us what? How to not be quickly judgmental. Don't jump into conclusion if you don't have the full knowledge, etc. and so on and so forth. Are we together? I think we're done with this. We'll enter al-istinja, al-istijmar. Before we continue, wiping the head. I took this, I mentioned this part last time, but I'm just going through it. Wiping the head, and Imam al-Shafi'i fard any part of the head. If you wipe a little bit of it, any part of the head, it suffices you. In the madhab of wiping the head, we also mentioned, in the madhab of Hanafi, is at least quarter of the head. You see? And then in the madhab of Imam Malik and the Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal is fard to wipe the entire head. So these two madhabs have said fard for the entire head, but the two mentioned that part of the head. Does it mean that the Shafi'iyya are wrong? And no, it depends which madhab are you following. But as we mentioned, even in Shafi'iyya, it's best to wipe the whole head. It's best to do that. You understand my point here? But they say if you did part of the head, it suffices you. But it's best to, so what, as Muslims, what do we want to be? We want to be the best, right? When we want to do business, we want to do anything else, what do? We try our best to be the best in that field. Or, I don't know if you get my point. That's how a Muslim should be. I hope that's answered the whole. Shukran, Allah barik for the question. Alright, let's start Istinja and Istijmar before time. Istinja. Now, before we start, this chapter is concerning Istinja, which is the etiquettes also of relieving oneself. When you go to the washroom, kids, you pay attention, young ones. So, the kids, it's good for them to learn from their younger age. And this is, as mentioned, this is how detailed fiqh is, and our deen is in general. It did not leave even the etiquettes of one relieving themselves. One of the etiquettes of relieving oneself, you're not allowed, if you're, let's say, in ghaba, in forest or whatever, do not go and defecate beneath a fruit tree, for example. Do not defecate where people pass. These days, what do we see from this kuffar? And some, Allah al-Musta'an, maybe even Muslims, it's very rare. But so many kuffar, you'll see them. You're driving through, you see someone stopped the bike or the car, in the side of the road, they're watering the nation. Sorry to use that word. That's the metaphor of it. Do you understand? That shows you that they have not taught themselves, or they've not been taught with their own deen. But our Islam teaches us, you're not allowed to do that. There is haya, there's way of doing things. You understand? And that's how our deen is kamil. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. الله أكبر. Alright, let's start with istinja. Bismillah.
فصل في الاستنجاء وآداب قاضي الحاجة. والاستنجاء وهو من نجوت الشيء أي قطعته فكأن المستنجي يقطع به الأذى عن نفسه. واجب من خروج البول والغائط بالماء أو الحجر وما في معناه من كل جامد طاهر قالع غير محترم. ولكن الأفضل أن يستنجي أولا بالأحجار ثم يتبعها ثانيا بالماء والواجب ثلاث مسحات والواجب 3 مسحات ولو ب3 أطراف حجر واحد. ويجوز أن يقتصر المستنجي على الماء أو على 3 أحجار ينقي بهن المحل إن حصل الإنقاء بها، وإلا زاد عليها حتى ينقي. ويسن بعد ذلك الإيتار.
حسبك. We've read a lot. I'll have to break it down. Okay. والاستنجاء وهو من نجوة الشيء أي قطعته فكأن المستنجي يقطع به الأذى عن نفسه. Istinja, which is derived from najwatul الشيء, it is I cut off the thing. So might mean cutting off a thing. Istinja itself it means. So it's so it is as if the one performing istinja cuts off the harm from himself, is obligatory upon the emission of urine and feces using water or stone or anything that serves a similar purpose from every solid, pure, cleansing, non-respectable object. Let me explain it in a summarized way. Istinja is basically cleaning oneself and cutting off the harm and removing off the harm that is in a person's, or a person is in that state by either relieving themselves through either by urinating or defecating. So either washing yourself from urine or feces. Are we together? We have something known as al-istinja and we have something known as al-istijmar. Istinja means of using of water. Istijmar is using of stones to clean oneself. Yes, it does clean you. Question might come. Am I allowed to use in the place of stones, am I allowed to use tissues? Yes. Because as mentioned here, the Musannif says, what or anything that serves a similar purpose from a very solid, pure, cleansing and non-respectable object. What does this mean? You're not allowed to clean yourself with a paper that has ayah written in it or hadith written in it because it's respectable. So a tissue paper, is there any ayah in it? No. But is it something that can wipe away dirt and filth from you? Yes. Is it dry? Is it solid? Yes. Is it cleansing? Yes. Is it respectable? No. It's a non-respectable object. When we say respectable, is something that you cannot throw away just like that. Maybe it has ayah in it, it has the name of Allah in it, whatever it is. Are we together? There are some things also, we'll get into it, we're not allowed to wipe ourselves from. Are we together? And the Musannif here explains, and it's better, before doing istinja, do istijmar. Before washing yourself with water, use something dry to wipe yourself. So for example, in washrooms, what do we have? Tissues. You can get tissues. Use tissues to wipe and then use water. You would clean yourself very well. It will be easy also for you to clean yourself. Now the question might come, can I just use tissues? La. If you're not in need of it, because tissue does not clean properly enough. Are we together? You know, they say, I remember one day we were talking with someone, they said, it's very weird that us who are here in this African continent, all right, we had our values. All those people who are living, they had values of how to clean themselves. But they let the people who came to colonize them to make them think that tissue is better than water. And they accepted it. And that's why, remember the time of COVID, people were going to the supermarkets and buying tissues after tissues. Ya akhi, ايش عندكم يا أخي? Water is there to clean yourself. You understand? So, to a point that they colonized the countries and made them think that water is not any, tissues are better than using of water. Very weird. I remember, I don't know if the story is true, there was one sheikh, I think it was in South Coast or something, Allah Alam, I don't know if the story was true. I remember someone was saying it that, I think, was it, I don't want to mention which president's time, but it's the president who stayed for long, you understand, for the longest year in Kenya. So there was someone who was a bit vocal about the government or something, if I'm not wrong. They took him to a psychiatrist. Go and check if his brain is okay. Is he sane or is he insane? So when he went to the doctor was not a Muslim. He asked him, between water and tissue, which one cleans better? He says water. He asked him, between how do you clean yourself when you go to the washroom? I use tissue. He said, if you knew that water cleans better than tissue and you're still using a tissue, how can you check my brain? Who is now sane, me or you? You understand? So I think he rests his case there. I don't remember the case deeper. I remember when someone mentioned it as a by the way. So we know that water cleanses better. So now we know that you can use tissues also. But if you don't have water and you don't have tissues, you're somewhere in the forest or whatever it is, whichever place you are, you can use what? Stones. You can use what? You can use leaves. Are you allowed to use bones? La, you're not allowed to use bones. Are you allowed to use cow dung, for example, to clean yourself? La. The Prophet ﷺ did not do that because he was given stones and also, I think, cow dung or whichever dung was there, any animal droppings. He didn't use the droppings and he used the stone. That's the dalil for it. And then والواجب ثلاث مسحات ولو بثلاث أطراف حجر واحد. The minimum obligatory is 3 wipes, even if the 3 different edges of a single stone. This the Musannif mentions, but it's better utilize as much as you can. Make sure that you're clean. It's not allowed. Now here it is. You're not allowed, if you're to use stones, to use less than 3. It's either 3 or above. You can use that. Also the Musannif says that لأنه يزيل عين النجاسة وأثرها, because by using more than 3 or 3 and above is the way of removing the filth or the impurity from you, the najis. Read from وشرط أجزاء الاستنجاء بالحجر. وشرط أجزاء الاستنجاء بالحجر أن لا يجف.
وشرط إجزاء الاستنجاء بالحجر ألا يجف خارج النجس وألا ينتقل عن محل خروجه وألا يطرأ عليه نجس آخر أجنبي عنه، فإن انتقى شرط من ذلك تعين الماء.
And you can say the prerequisite or condition of doing istijmar, yani using a stone and all that, should not be, as mentioned with the stone, is that the impure excess must not have dried. Yani when you are washing you relieved yourself. Number 2, we don't have number 3. Number 2, for example, you're allowed to use stones if it has not dried yet. So while you still just relieved yourself, this when you can use it. Otherwise you'll have to use water, because the stone will not help in wiping yourself. Even tissue will not help if it has dried. Number 2 mentions no transfer from its place of exit, meaning you're not be very careful. Whatever you're wiping yourself with, if it's the stone or the tissue, does not transfer the filth from where it is to the other part or any other part of your body. Number 3 is nor should another foreign impurity have occurred upon it. That thing that you're using to clean yourself should be something that is pure, not something that, do you understand my point here? Is it clearly understood? If any of these 3 conditions are not met, then water becomes mandatory. Are we together here now? So we have conditions of even using these other objects such as stones or tissues in order to clean ourselves. وجوبا قاضي الحاجة استقبال. Okay, let's continue. ويجتنب
وجوبا قاضي الحاجة استقبال القبلة الآن وهي الكعبة، واستدبارها في الصحراء إن لم يكن بينه وبين القبلة ساتر، أو كان ولم يبلغ ثلثي ذراع أو بلغهما وبعد عنه أكثر من 3 أذرع بذراع الآدمي كما قال بعضهم والبنيان في هذا كالصحراء بالشرط المذكور إلا البناء المعد لقضاء الحاجة.
Alright, there's a deep explanation to it. Let me simplify here. And it's not, as the Musannif mentioned, it is obligatory for the one relieving himself to avoid facing the Qibla. Majority of the washrooms, when you go to the Muslim world, when you see person building a house or even the mosque, the Qiblas, the washrooms, you'll see them, they're not facing the Qibla. In other countries, they don't take this seriously. You'll see where the Qibla is, they build the washroom and it's facing the Qibla. That is one of the problems that we have. So as the Musannif says, it's obligatory the one relieving himself to avoid facing the Qibla, which is the Kaaba now, and backing it in the open desert. And he mentions that this rule applies to also houses, not a must only a desert. And it can have a deeper explanation to it. وخرج بقوله الآن ما كان قبلة أولا كبيت المقدس. This deep explanation of other stuff he branches out, and this is out of courtesy avoided by the one relieving himself to urinate and defecate in these ways. And also mentioned here is you're not allowed to urinate or defecate in stagnant water. If you are in a river, for example, there's a lot of water and the water is not stagnant, it's moving, it's not a small pond, or the river is not stood there and it's stagnant, then that's a different case. But if you see stagnant water and you go and urinate there, it's disliked out of courtesy. And also maybe their animals will come and drink from that water and so on and so forth. People maybe benefit from that water, and you go and do your job over there and you make everything turn to be something else. He mentions أما الجاري فيكره في القليل منه دون الكثير. As the flowing water, it is disliked in small amounts but not in large amounts. Through it is better to avoid it. Imam al-Nawawi researched and considered it unlawful in small amount, whether flowing or stagnant. It is also avoided to urinate and defecate under a fruit tree, which we mentioned at the beginning, whether in season or not. So don't tell yourself, oh, this is a fruit tree but it's not the season of mangoes now, let me go and do my job there. La. All right, the Imam al-Nawawi says, as his research, he mentions that it's prohibited to defecate or urinate in in water that even if it's moving, because it's in a small, whether the flowing or stagnant. If the water is little, even if the water is little, if it's stagnant or moving, it's not like it's flowing. In the research of Imam al-Nawawi, he mentions that it's also not allowed. But in other aqwal of ulama, they say as long as it's not stagnant water, it's flowing water, then it's okay. I don't know if you can finish this. There's a lot of stuff that I can do. If I am to okay, let me mention one hadith and a bit of things that I have, maybe a bit of summary that I have. The hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, we can finalize with that. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال اتقوا اللعنين قالوا وما اللعنان يا رسول الله قال الذي يتخلى في طريق الناس أو في ظلهم. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم in this hadith, on the authority of Abu Hurairah رضي الله عنه, says, beware of the two things that incur curses. Yani a person gets curses. One, they say, the companions said, what are those two things that incur curses? The Prophet ﷺ said, the one who relieves himself in the people's path or in their shade. So if people pass through somewhere, even if it's in the forest side or shamba side or whatever you call it, you will see a path where people usually walk from. There's no grass growing there because people are used to walking there. Don't go and defecate or urinate there, or even if a place where people take as a shade. As we mentioned, these days you'll see people doing it in the road. next to the road, they don't have any haya. We don't know if there's a female passing next to you or anything. Najwa, I'm feeling like relieving myself, I'll relieve myself anywhere. So as mentioned, they start watering the nation, and that's why we have so many acidity in the grass, I guess. I think we will pause over there due to the time. What to avoid? I think Istinja and Istijmar, there's a little bit we can touch on next weekend. But what to avoid when doing Istijmar, when cleaning yourself? Number one is bones and dung, cow dung or whatever dung is it. These two things. Food, sacred text or respected papers, smooth or slippery objects, impure materials, and valuable items. Using valuable items like gold, silver or precious fabric for Istinja is wasteful and disrespectful. So these things you should avoid while cleaning yourself. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us amongst those who will work upon whatever they learn and not just sit and merely just listen to the lecture and not work upon it. So one of the things that we have advised is, if you have tissue at home in your washroom, first wipe with your tissue and then clean yourself with water. Is tissue enough rather than water? La. Unless you have no water. Are we together on that? And that's where the stones come in. If you're in a place where there's no tissues and you don't have water, use stones to clean yourself, or you can use leaves. Don't use bones, don't use any type of dung or droppings of animals. If they dry, they become like stones, right? Don't use that. And also about bones, are considered food for the jinn. They're considered foods for the jinn, and dung is impure or food for the animals. So these things are very important to take seriously when a person wants to clean themselves. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها زكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها. اللهم يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث أصلح لنا شأننا كله ولا تكلنا إلى أنفسنا طرفة عين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا زدنا علما وارزقنا فهما. ربنا زدنا علما وارزقنا فهما. اللهم أنت الواحد الأحد الفرد الصمد الذي لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. نسألك إلهنا اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم اغفر لنا ولوالدينا وارحمهما كما ربونا صغارا. اللهم اغفر لنا وللمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك قريب مجيب الدعوات. يا رزاق افتح لنا من أبواب رحمتك ورزق حلالا واسعا طيبا مباركا فيه من غير كد. اللهم افتح لنا من أبواب الخير والنعمة. اللهم افتح لنا من أبواب الخير والنعمة. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. وصلى اللهم وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Let's meet inshallah next Sunday, and try coming with your family members so that they also benefit from these durus inshallah. We will start nawaqid al-wudu, and that is nullifiers of wudu, and also ghusl, how ghusl is done, when is ghusl necessary, when is it obligatory, and when it is sunnah, so on and so forth. After we finish tahara, we will also, part of the tahara will also enter about the topic of menstruation and all these things, which is very, very important for the sisters to understand. So if you have your female family members, bring them so that they can also benefit. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Don't forget me in your du'as.